Hey, what's up, guys? Gonz here for the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel. You know, in the truther community, especially the Christian one, we often talk about the Illuminati or the Satanism that is inherent in our governments, in our bankers and corporate institutions, and even our religious institutions and establishments. And I often get asked, you know, is there a biblical precedence for this? You know, we talk about the Illuminati and all this stuff, and realistically, the phrase Illuminati, I think, has been used a little bit too much. While historically, the Illuminati was created by Adam Weishaupt back in the late 1700s, and there's a whole history there, it's not clear that this cabal of families that pretty much run the entire world label themselves as the Illuminati. That's something that we've done in the public. But obviously the Satanism is pretty blatant if you start looking into the kinds of rituals they do, Bohemian Grove, the secret societies, and all the stuff that's associated around the rituals of Freemasonry, Skull and Bone Society, all that stuff. And I document some of that in Age of Deceit, Fallen Angels, in the New World Order. And plenty of people have exposed these elements. But again, I get asked, you know, what about in the Bible? Is there anything like this in the Bible? And actually there is. And it comes in Ezekiel 8. I'm just going to go ahead and read the entire chapter. It's not too long. It's only 18 verses. Here's what it says. In the 6th year, in the 6th month, on the 5th day of the month, as I sat in my house with the elders of Judah sitting before me, the hand of the Lord fell upon me there. Then I looked, and behold, a form that had the appearance of a man. Below what appeared to be his waist was fire, and above his waist was something like the appearance of brightness, like gleaming metal. He put out the form of a hand and took me by a lock of my head, and the Spirit lifted me up between earth and heaven and brought me in visions of God to Jerusalem, to the entrance of the gateway of the inner court that faces north, where was the seat of the image of jealousy, which provokes to jealousy. And behold, the glory of the God of Israel was there, like the vision that I saw in the valley. Then he said to me, Son of man, lift up your eyes now toward the north. So I lifted my eyes toward the north, and behold, north of the altar gate in the entrance was this image of jealousy. And he said to me, Son of man, do you see what they are doing, the great abominations that the house of Israel are committing here, to drive me far from my sanctuary? But you will see still greater abominations. And he brought me to the entrance of the court, and when I looked, behold, there was a hole in the wall. Then he said to me, Son of man, dig in the wall. So I dug in the wall, and behold, there was an entrance. And he said to me, Go in and see the vile abominations that they are committing here. So I went in and saw, and there, engraved on the wall all around, was every form of creeping things and loathsome beasts, and all the idols of the house of Israel. And before them stood 70 men of the elders of the house of Israel, with Jazaniah the son of Shaphan standing among them. Each had his censer in his hand, and the smoke of the cloud of incense went up. Then he said to me, Son of man, have you seen what the elders of the house of Israel are doing in the dark, each in his room of pictures? For they say, The Lord does not see us. The Lord has forsaken the land. He said also to me, You will still see greater abominations that they commit. Then he brought me to the entrance of the north gate of the house of the Lord, and behold, there sat a woman weeping for Tammuz. Then he said to me, Have you seen this, O son of man? You will see greater abominations than these. And he brought me into the inner court of the house of the Lord, and behold, at the entrance of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were about 25 men, with their backs to the temple of the Lord, and their faces toward the east, worshipping the sun toward the east. Then he said to me, Have you seen this, O son of man? Is it too light a thing for the house of Judah to commit the abominations that they commit here, that they should fill the land with violence, and provoke me still further to anger? Behold, they put the branch to their nose, therefore I will act in wrath. My eye will not spare, nor will I have pity. And though they cry in my ears with a loud voice, I will not hear them. Now, there's a lot to break down here, so I'm going to try to get through this quickly. First off, the 6th year in the 6th month of the 5th day of the month is pretty interesting if you think about it, because a lot of these rituals and stuff were going on in the middle of the night, right? Because during the day, a lot of these people were doing your normal thing, especially the religious leaders of the day. These rituals were happening at night. So the fact that the Lord came to Ezekiel on the 6th year in the 6th month of the 5th day means that what he probably saw was happening on the 6th day 666. So there's some wisdom there in terms of the mark of the beast that we read about in Revelation 13. So that's pretty interesting. Second of all, it says here that the Spirit lifted me up between earth and heaven and brought me in visions of God to Jerusalem. So this is something that I think is important to point out, that things like the outer body experience is something that God can provoke. In other words, it's part of the construct of being a human and perceptions and abilities that I think are pretty dormant in us. Now, the difference is when New Agers and occult practitioners take a hold of things like remote viewing or outer body experiences or astral travel, things like that, it's self-induced, or they get the help of some fallen spirits that you probably don't want to have communication with, and it's not in any way guided by God. So that's the biggest difference. But just understand that it's a true mode of operation in our reality. It's just that when we try to do it on our own, the purpose for why we are doing it is probably not so good, but it can be done if the Spirit of God leads us to do it, literally taking us by the hair. Now, the next thing I want to point out is this image of jealousy. Now, in Greek mythology, Phonos, I believe is how you pronounce it, was the personification of jealousy and envy, especially in matters of love. He's said to be the counterpart of Nemesis. It's said that this god had many wives, but killed each one eventually on suspicion of adultery. And according to some Greek mythological scholars, he was the son of Nyx and or Dionysus, but on other documents, he's implied that he's the son of Aphrodite. Either way, the point here is that there was an image of Phonos, which is basically another god, at the altar gate, which was supposed to be for the God of Israel. Now, next, Ezekiel's taken inside the walls, and what he sees there are vile abominations with engravings on the walls, with creeping things, lonesome beasts, and all the idols of the house of Israel. Now, this is incantations, it's worship of animals, worship of probably beasts. It says loathsome beasts, which is interesting. And here's the key thing that's really interesting. And before them stood 70 men of the elders of the house of Israel. Now, 70 is a very interesting number because if we go back to the Tower of Babel and the Table of Nations in Genesis 10, we see 70 nations being split up. This is before God took Israel as his own. The Table of Nations was split into 70 different counterparts, and if you go to Psalm 82, it talks about the gods, plural, who are judged by the God of Israel, Yahweh, because they didn't do what they were supposed to do in looking over these 70 different regions or tribes. Instead, each one of them accepted worship from their region or their people. And these are the principalities and powers, I believe, of today, that they're regional, that they have dominion over certain areas of the earth. And so this is what this represents. And to have 70 men, elders of the house of Israel, these are the religious leaders of Israel. They're the ones that have turned their backs, just in the same way that the 70 sons of God, these Elohim, turned their backs on Yahweh. Same exact thing, history repeating itself. Now later in Luke 10 in the New Testament, it talks about the Lord appointing 70, 2 by 2, to go out into the towns. And this is the whole part about sending out lambs among wolves and things like that. Why? Because Jesus is claiming back what's rightfully his. And this was a representation of that act. So there's New Testament ties to what's going on here in Ezekiel. But again, this is also a representation of what happened back in the Table of Nations in the spiritual realm with the lowercase g plural gods. Now, Ezekiel also points out Jezaniah, the son of Shaphan, standing among them. Now, this is interesting. Why was he pointed out of all the names? And there's several people with that name in the Bible, so it's hard to really pinpoint exactly what the significance of Jezaniah was. But in essence, the name means heard of God. And remember, this chapter ends with God saying, I will not hear them. Now, the other part of it is that these elders had censers in their hand and smoke of the cloud of incense going up. And of course, where have we seen that sort of thing, right? Then we see a woman weeping for Tammuz. And Tammuz is Babylonian, originated as the Sumerian shepherd god Dumazid or Dumizi, the consort of Inanna, and the Akkadian form, the parallel consort of Ishtar. Tammuz is considered the life, death, rebirth deity and has been associated with the summer solstice and everything else. Nothing new. And then finally, At the entrance of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were 25 men with their backs to the temple of the Lord, with their faces towards the east, worshiping the sun. Now, I know you guys have probably heard, Christianity is actually sun worship. Well, no, this refutes it right here. God shows Ezekiel these men worshiping the sun rather than Yahweh, and there you have it. It's an abomination. And the result of this, they fill the land with violence and provoke the anger of the Lord. So what we're seeing with secret societies and the satanic rituals, the ones we call the Illuminati, with the illumined ones, the sun worship, the light bringer, Lucifer, all these things is the same as what God revealed to Ezekiel here of the leaders of Israel back in his day. And again, the result being violence in the land and provoking the anger of the Lord. Well, what do we see? We see tons of violence in the land, right? Being perpetrated. We talk about false flags. We talk about wars. All these things are part of what is created by the elders, by these secret societies, by these institutions of Satan worshipers who come out and pretty much, during the day are your politicians, are your normal bankers, or even maybe your church leaders, right? But in the middle of the night, they do different things. They worship pagan gods. And if you listen to testimonies of people who come out of the Illuminati and things like that, they'll tell you that. They'll say, yeah, I was taken in the middle of the night, do these rituals, etc., etc. All these things are consistent. Nothing has changed. There is nothing new under the sun. But ultimately, it provokes the anger of the Lord. And what do we see in the book of Revelation? We see the day of the Lord, which is at hand. God's wrath will fall upon this earth. And that day is coming, okay? The return of Christ is coming, and he's not going to come just kind of kicking back, relaxing. No, he's coming with his wrath, and it's actually going to be a beautiful thing because justice on this earth will be served, and I've talked about that in other videos. So go read Ezekiel. It's one of my favorite books in the Bible, chapter 8 and beyond. There's some stuff in chapter 9 that also reflects the mark of the beast and sort of what Satan will probably try to do in mimicking God's wrath. So check that out, and I encourage you to just get into the Word and get right with God. Thanks for watching my video. Please share it with friends, family, and whoever else you think might benefit from this information. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel and dig around the archives. I have hundreds of videos covering topics ranging from angels, aliens, and the Antichrist to global conspiracies of the New World Order, eugenics, genetics, Genesis 6, the Nephilim, transhumanism, and much, much more. And don't forget to check out my full-length documentaries, Age of Deceit, Fallen Angels, and the New World Order, and Age of Deceit 2, Alchemy, and the Rise of the Beast Image, all of which you can watch for free right here on the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel. And if you want even more content, check out CanaryCryRadio.com, our podcast where we investigate similar issues and interview all kinds of experts on several different topics. In fact, we just finished episode 100, which is 7 hours long, where we interviewed 26 people in one podcast episode. You can find the podcast at CanaryCryRadio.com or go subscribe to the Canary Cry Radio YouTube channel. Again, thanks for watching and have an awesome day. God bless.